This
All
meeting
right.
is being recorded.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This is the course preview for the Santa Cruz race, which is in 10 days' time, 9 days' time. We're going to go over both the Olympic distance and the sprint distance tonight, because I know there's people doing both distances in the club. And we have with us here JD, who a lot of you will recognize. If you do not recognize him, JD is our coach for our Olympic distance training program, and he also coaches our Thursday and Sunday Masters swims at Garfield and Ham High. So JD has done this race plenty of times. He has trained plenty of people for this race, so I can't think of anyone better to give us a run through of the race, which is in like its 41st year, but has a couple of tweaks this year, and we will go over those. So, JD, over to you. Is that enough? Good enough of an intro?
Yeah, far too much of an intro. You're very kind, but thank you very much. Well, thank you for joining me on a Friday evening, and for those that will see this later, we're just going to go piece by piece. Kind of want to go over. Let me share my screen first. So let's go over some logistics here. We'll start with the wave schedule. Well, I guess before that, let's start with packet pickup. So you got a few options. The first would be Friday. I believe it's 4 to 7 at Sports Basement. And then the second option would be the day before. So first option, Sports Basement Sunnyvale, 4 to 7. And then the second option is going to be the bike shop in Santa Cruz. There's a third option where you can pick it up race day, but there's a $20 convenience fee involved with that one. They have said a few times to really enforce the photo ID. So if you typically just give your USAT cards, it might be good just to make sure you have that just for all races in general, because that's technically the rule. In terms of swim waves,
JD, can I jump?
Yeah, go for
it. Last year, I paid the $20 in person. You just give them like a $20 bill in person if you're picking it up in the morning. This year, I paid in advance. And in the email I sent out the other day, they're like, if you're picking up in the day, don't forget to bring $20. So I emailed them back and I was like, I've already paid this. And they've not got back to me. So have $20 on you, or if you've paid in advance to pick up in the day, have your receipt ready to go like, I've already paid this. And definitely have your ID. I picked it up in the morning and they checked my ID very thoroughly. So yeah, I'd say definitely have your ID with you. Back over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I do believe that they said it's cash or check only, so they don't have a reader or something for credit cards. Thank you, Craig. Let me share screen again. So the wave starts, all the Olympics are first. So if you're there for a sprint, don't need to get there, super early at when transition opens up. They're going 100% by age. So it looks like you got the race starts at 8 a.m. They'll have a little bit of briefing. They tend to do it at, I believe, 7:45, and it's right in front of the swim start at the pier. And then you kind of have waves every 5 minutes, essentially. The first wave for the sprint is going to start at 9:30, and it's the same deal. It's going to be not as many waves, but every 5 minutes you've got the waves for that. In terms of the course, kind of want to go over the transition because that's one of the biggest changes. So let me pull out the maps. We'll just go with the Olympic first. I don't know if it's going to really show transition. There it is. Okay, so it's actually in the Depot Park soccer field, where in the past it was adjacent to it in this parking lot. So it's actually in the soccer field here. So you've got a slightly even longer transition because you technically go past transition of the old transition. But one thing to note, and Arissa's already said this, but you're not allowed to eat technically on this field. So for those of you that are planning to kind of get a little bit of a snack in for either after the swim or starting out on the run or after the bike, you definitely need to do it in motion. for this race, and technically that's the fastest way as well. If you're uncomfortable with things, I would take advantage of the long transitions as well, especially from the swim to the bike. But you also have a dismount line over here that you can kind of get something in right before entering the park. I don't know how they're going to enforce this, if they're really going to be, but technically that's going to be the rule. So might as well be aware of that. So that's kind of the biggest change is all the bikes are going to be racked on the field. So I'm going to go through each piece or each facet of the swim, bike, and run. We're going to alternate between the Olympic distance and the sprint distance. So let's start with Olympic. Fairly straightforward, true open water swim. So you're going to start on the beach. It tends to be right in front of one of the towers. That's where the race meeting is, I believe. Don't quote me on it, but it's usually 15 minutes before. They'll go over a few logistics. I've done the race, I don't know. I think my first time doing the race was about 20 years ago. In the course of that time, I think I can only remember it once, but they did delay the start due to fog. So that is a safety concern that they would delay the start of the race because they need to see the participants. It's one of those races that, you know, just knowing that, I'd bring a little extra food, a little extra drink, whatever your kind of pre-race ritual is. Add a little bit extra just in case to delay it half an hour potentially because of fog. It's also a race that you can have a perfectly clear day with the sun coming up and you can't see a thing. So ideally you have two pairs of goggles for this race, one metallic, you know, to kind of protect your eyes from the sun, and the other clear or yellow in case if it's a more overcast or foggy day. If you just got one, then you're just going to roll with it. But the swim is fairly straightforward. The good part is your sighting. They'll have one. First of all, do not take this line. Whoever swam this, don't take this line. We want much straighter lines for the actual swim start. For the actual swim, don't go out this wide. But you're going to try to take a tangent all the way to the pier right here. The pier juts out. So all you're trying to do is they'll probably have one buoy, is my guess, somewhere around here. They'll have a buoy, if it's the same as in past, right around the tip of the pier. Probably one before the tip of the pier, one after the tip of the pier, and then one somewhere on the way in. So there's only like 4 buoys. So it's a true open water swim. The good news is you have this big pier that you're going to be keeping to your right when you sight every single time. So you're trying to keep a straight line, going a little bit as straight as possible out to this pier. You'll have a buoy here, and then know that the pier juts out a touch more. On the way back in, you want to sight basically the palm trees, or there's a bathroom, but in between the palm trees, they'll say kind of sight the Dream Inn, but that's way over to the left. So what happens with that is as you go around the pier, you don't want to take a big long turn and then get out by this Dream Inn like right over here, per se. I want to get around here, not go into the pier, and just know that there's a current that'll start pushing you into the pier. So you do need to keep this as straight as possible because you also don't want to do the inverse of swimming in towards the pier and then going back out. That's longer as well. Just go tangent, straight up, you know, sight palm trees, keep the Dream Inn over to definitely to the left of you. Don't be sighting the Dream Inn. And then you're exiting basically a handicap ramp on the swim exit. One thing to note both on the swim in and the exit out, once again, done this race for a number of times. Sometimes you get baby waves, like 2 feet, like aquatic park. Sometimes you can get 5-foot waves that are going to be pretty legit where you got to dive under. So just know that you're not going to really know the conditions until race morning. But for your warm up, play around with how I'm going to dive under these waves if it is a wavy day, or how far I'm going to jump, run in until I need to dive in. So basically where that the bottom kind of gives out, and I know that it's in my middle of quad, and I can dive in safely. So definitely pay attention on the warm up for the run in. On the run out, you know, if it's not wavy, it's fairly straightforward. If you got 2 feet waves, they're not going to push you over. That being said, this is definitely a race to make forward progress once your fingers hit the bottom 2 or 3 times. Because if you hit the bottom a couple times and then stand up, and even if they're 2-foot waves, you notice this for those of you that swam in an aquatic park, you get a little current pushback once the waves go back out to shore. And you can, you know, 2 feet, you probably keep your balance, but you're going to be working a little harder. So if it's 5 feet, that's potential that a wave's crashing down on you, and then you're going to be a castaway out to sea. So definitely make forward progress, nice and quick. Start your jog. You have plenty of time with this transition to worry about fiddling with your wetsuit until you get out of the water. So do not feel rushed for this race at all. So yeah, swim course is fairly straightforward for the Olympic. Just got to make it around pier, trying to keep as straight lines as possible. For the sprint swim, or do they not even go for the swim? You guys are going to be making a triangle. You're doing a completely different course. You're staying on the other side of pier, so the Olympic starts on this side. You guys are staying in the more protected cove over here. You're making what looks like a triangle, and essentially it's half the distance of the Olympic, which is why they can't truncate it to get around the pier. So got a straightforward. You're going to have a buoy out here, another buoy. It's going to be a 3-buoy swim. You're kind of get out about exact same point. The transitions for both races, they don't show it. So the transition for both races is a very long run. I have delicate feet. If I end up racing, I'm gonna probably put down shoes for my delicate feet. Just know that it's lined up right on this handicap railing. I think there's a little mural, so pay attention to that, or pay attention to where you're putting your shoes, because you're literally going to see a stream of shoes just lined up on a wall. So it's kind of like when you sight, you kind of want something behind you. So if there's a mural and you can see kind of a piece of that mural, know that I've got this color right in front of my shoes. So you're not just kind of scanning shoes as you go. But it is a very long run. Pavement is decent. If any of you have done like Escape from Alcatraz, think fairly similar pavement quality. So if you can handle that run barefoot, you can handle this run barefoot. But it's a fairly decent run. It's definitely over 400 meters, I would say, from point to point, probably closer to about 600 meters if I had to guess. That's pretty much all I have for the swim and the transition run. When I get into transition, it looks like I'm coming in the same area as I would. There's kind of a path to go, and I'm going to I'm keeping the old parking lot over to my right. I'm going to go past that, and looks like I'm going to go into this main exit right here. Going to grab my bike, and then I'm going out the back side of the soccer field. The good news about this for the bike course for both races is this is a much flatter start. So you're going to get out, you're going to, wherever the line is, pay attention to where the mount line and dismount line is. But once you get past that line, you're going to get on a bike. This is all pretty flat. This is where, once I get to this roundabout, this is where a hill starts. So pay attention to my gear ratio. I don't know if I want to be in my big ring unless I know I could power my way up this hill, because otherwise you're going to be shifting a few times, getting up to speed. But that's going to be an individual decision on what to do. But you are starting on a flat, which is a good thing. It does climb a little bit once you get past this roundabout. So that's about the first part of the bike. I'm going to go over the Olympic bike first. Slightly different course. So I'm going to go out, exit transition, Washington Street. So right over here. And you're going to continue. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a right turn on Bay Street. So that's new. And the reason for that is the main stretch, West Cliff, where you used to just stay on West Cliff all the way. It's now one way because part of the road has deteriorated with just the waves and the floods. So you're on a different road that's kind of like adjacent to West Cliff, essentially. You'll go all the way right on Bay Street. You'll make a left on Laguna. Laguna, you stay straight. It goes all the way to Delaware. So Delaware is running parallel to West Cliff, apparently, at that point. You'll continue on Delaware all the way. You'll make a right on Natural Bridges Drive. And then an immediate right on on Mission Street. Those are back-to-back turns, and then you'll make the left onto Highway 1. And that's the majority of the bike ride right there. You're kind of meandering a little bit, but it's not like one turn like the old course. You're kind of meandering on the adjacent street to then get onto Highway 1. Once you make that left onto Highway 1, it's an out and back in Davenport. So I wouldn't mess with any nutrition or stuff on this first part of this course because it's a little bit congested over here. Once you get on Delaware, that's pretty straightforward. But as you can see, I've done this course. They used to have this and not go on West Cuts at least 1 year, and I don't know the reason why. But these are all stop signs. You're entrusting the local police or volunteers. I'd keep your eyes up on this because I remember being like, oh, this is slightly the ride of my life right now. So keep your eyes up. Let's not mess around with transition. Get through this area until you get on Highway 1. Once you get on Highway 1, you've got a big, long shoulder. Remember to stay right, as much as safe possible. You're going to be passing on the left. Communicate it, but Highway 1 is open to cars. So you have a big shoulder, but definitely have cars there. It is considered a flat course from Bay Area standards. I consider it more kind of rolling. The key to this course would be to, kind of get in a rhythm. Keep if you're using power, your 88 to 94% of FTP, or if you're going by perceived effort, just kind of keep it nice and consistent, both on the uphill and the downhill, because you're pedaling through a lot of these downhills, and you don't want to kind of push too hard on the uphill and then coast on the downhill. Historically, 9 times out of 10, you'll get a headwind going out on Highway 1, and you're going to get a tailwind on the way back. So it's a very favorable condition because it's slightly net uphill down, slightly net up downhill on the way back with a tailwind. So just kind of keep that in mind in terms of, pacing and most of it. If you go out and you're like, oh, I'm getting a huge push, I'm getting a huge tailwind, then that's when you got to be like, the way back is actually going to be hard because I'm getting a headwind. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, you're getting a headwind going out, tailwind going back. The only complicated part besides that initial start is what's going on through the town of Davenport. So you're going to go down for the turnaround at fairly speed, like a tucked descent, like you're not really pedaling through it. And you're going to make a right hill, which is a slight little climb up to church. So you're going to make a right turn onto Davenport. You'll then make a square through the town of Davenport. You're going to make a left onto Ocean Street, and then make a CHP is guarding this intersection, by the way. And then you're making a left back on Highway 1. At that point, you're essentially doing it out and back, except there's one caveat. So like I said, you're doing the inverse of what you just did on the way out. The caveat doesn't happen until I get back closer to where I kick back out, going out on the bike. So instead of turning onto the natural bridges, you're going to actually take a right turn off onto a one-way single track part. So if I look right here, so on Highway 1 going out, I'm going here and then going back out. On the way back in, you're going to take this roundabout. So that red line is going to be the way back in. So you can see that you're not going all the way back out here. I'm going to take this, it's a one-way, and then I'm going to get to the natural bridges. And then that's all the same, except the second change on the bike course is this out and back on Swanson Boulevard. So I'm going to, instead of going straight on Delaware and then go back out, I've got to make a right turn. And this is just a small out and back to add distance, essentially, because it's not going out on West Cliff, so it's less distance. This Delaware Street is more direct. So they add this out and back. You'll then make a right on Delaware, and then everything else right there looks to be the same until you get to where you kicked out on Bay Avenue. You're going to make a right on Santa Cruz right here, and then a left on West Cliff. So you are going to do the last little bit on West Cliff. So they're probably doing this to avoid just out and back, turning back into people. So it's a very similar course, but it's not a true out and back. the biggest changes are how you get out, and instead of West Cliff, you're going to be on Delaware. And then on the way back, instead of going all the way back to Bay Avenue, I'm going to make a right on Santa Cruz, and then I'm going to get a last little bit on West Cliff before heading back into transition. For this sprint,
I should say, for anyone that's new to the race, there's going to be so many people directing you, or new to racing generally. There's a list of turns there, but that's just to get you familiar with it. There's going to be so many volunteers going like, go this way or go that way. So don't worry about missing turnings.
For the sprint, it's going to be 2 laps, and you're 100%, you're not messing with Highway 1 at all. So you're going to exit transition exact same way. You're going to loop around to West Cliff. You're going to make your right onto Bay Street right here. You'll then go out on Delaware. So that's the same as the Olympic. And then you're going to make a left turn onto Swanton. So this is the Olympic out and back. Interesting that they're doing the same course. You're going to turn back around, make a right onto Delaware, and then you'll follow the, looks like the same, left onto Bay Street for a second lap. So you're going to go left onto West Cliff over here, and then I'll go left onto Bay. I'll go my second lap out here, and then go back. So the sprint course, I would say, knowing this, it's not even rolling. This is like 100% flat. This Delaware Avenue is through kind of residential. Like I said, all these are technically stop signs that should be governed, but this is the longest stretch. If I was taking nutrition, heads up getting through some of these stop signs, but I would definitely take nutrition here or on Swanton, because that's going to be an out and back, fairly wide roads. This part looks like it's going to get pretty congested. I wouldn't mess with stuff on the Santa Cruz and then Bay back in. On your second lap, you'll go back on Delaware, make a right on Santa Cruz, and then head straight in, essentially, on the bike course. But completely flat course right there. Transition is going to be much shorter. You're not going to dismount on a downhill with this new course. So let me go back to the Olympic. So my bike in, I'm going to go over here. Bike back in is going to be the exact same way, it looks like. Looks like they're just splitting up the road. So bike out goes this way. Bike in, you're staying over to the right. You're going to go in the same way. You'll rack your bike. And then the run out should be the other way, but let me make sure. Where's the arrow? So the run out goes, looks like, comes out on the side over here. So there must be another gate. And then my run out goes here. So frame of reference, a swim in went through this gate. Looks like the run out is going through a side gate over here. Race morning, I would pay attention, guys, just for how you set up your bike and equipment. But also for any race you do, check out the flow of transition. Should be the first thing you do to know when the where the swim in is, where the bike out is, where the bike in is, and where the run out is, as well as the finish. But looks like you just go out. That means you're going to go running on this path. That's the same path that you did on the swim in. Where's the run course? So for the run course, run out transition, yeah, you're going down the same path. And the run is along West Cliff Drive. So the run has not changed according to the website. So the turnaround is 0.2 miles before Delaware Avenue. Yep. So that means, what that's saying is, so I'm going to go on West Cliff, which is right over here. I'm going to go all the way out here. I'm going to have to make a right turn onto Swanton. So the bike is going to be on the road. This historically is on the only part that's unpaved is this part right here. I've seen a year where they use like the parking lots, but normally you get some either the out or the back is going to be on dirt right here. Very short, because the majority of the run, and when I mean majority, it might be 3 miles. Just as 0.1 goes on to Swanton, and you're not making it to Delaware. For some reason, you get to Delaware where your bikes are, you've gone too far. But there'll be an aid station right here, essentially, and then the turnaround's back. The run is pretty flat. I consider it ever so slightly rolling, but it's essentially a pretty flat course. The aid stations, they haven't designated on this one. If I remember correctly, there's one at mile 1, there's one at mile 2, and there's one at the turnaround. So it's basically every mile in terms of the aid stations. It can get hot looking through the weather, a little far out, but the swim and bike, you're gonna be fairly cool, but the run historically can get warm. So if you see as we lead into this race next week, you see anything mid 70s and definitely into the 80s, that's going to be a very warm run. Anything anything 65 or below, you're going to be fine in terms of weather. But I would pay attention just to know what you need to do and your hydration intake for both the bike and run, especially knowing that it has potential to get pretty warm. For the sprint run, I believe they haven't changed that, and it's just an out and back. Yeah, so you're just going out on Westcliff. They're going to have like a volunteer with a cone. So it's after, they usually label it, so you'll see a 1 mile mark, and then at about 1.5 in, you'll have a turnaround, and you're just going out and back on Westcliff. So for those of you that have done the race in years past, it looks like nothing has been changed on the swim or the run. It's just the bike that has a few wrinkles to it. Okay, so that's kind of the course in a nutshell. Pretty straightforward course. The bike does have a few more turns, but like Craig said, they've got volunteers at all the major turns to kind of guide you, and you've also got a wave of participants. Not to say that the blind can't lead the blind, but it's fairly straightforward. The bike definitely has a few more turns. I don't have anything else to really add going through that course. Craig, anything you want to add?
No, I would agree. Yeah, a couple of. I know you say you have delicate feet. I can do that run without shoes on. I wear flip flops from transition down to the beach, and then hopefully you have some there to cheer you. I give them my flip flops, and then when you get out the water, like you're just sort of like the blood's pumping. You're at race time, so I can get along there without slipping shoes on. But like JD said, it's up to like how you feel with your feet.
The majority of people go barefoot, just as a frame of reference.
Yeah, because when you walk down, if you're not in shoes, you feel every stone under your feet. But then when you come out the water, hey, your feet are probably cold. So yeah, I would just run barefoot. Other than that, no, it's a really fun race. It can get very busy. I did the sprint last year, and that bike along Westcliff, as JD says, there is some traffic control, but there was, when you're doing a sprint, you're sort of going 20 miles an hour. There's people just walking out in front of you. They don't consider a bike to be going as fast as a car. So if you're doing the Olympic, you just sort of have to get your way through that to get up to Highway 1, and then you can get some speed in. But if you're doing the sprint like me, you got to contend with that sort of loop twice. And just be happy to shout, just shout at people like, out the way, I'm coming. Just think about what you're going to shout in advance.
Craig's just got a ludicrous song on cue. He just pressed the button. It's like, move, get out the way. So
I think I'm getting a bell. Just like, Anyway, any questions, Arisa? I think you had some questions. But any questions at all? Either switch on your mic or put them in the chat if you're not able to speak.
Thank you. No, I think everything was answered. I was a little worried about the new bike route, but yeah, fairly flat is good. Or, since we're training in the city, it's all flat.
Yeah, I mean, Delaware's the good part is Delaware's a straight shot, where Westcliff kind of meanders, and like Craig says, a lot of times you get they don't shut down that path, so people are just kind of roaming around. Delaware is just like a street, so as long as they've got the cross traffic, covered, it's a straight shot. So it's a little bit more straightforward on Delaware, Larissa. And then the way back is the same, except for the Swanton turnaround that everybody's doing, even if you're doing the sprint.
Okay.
Larissa, you can get yourself an aero, get that aero helmet, go on Delaware Avenue. You're going to be able to pick up some speed there.
That's just there for looks. So yes.
Yeah.
Hannah,
The only thing I ever say about this race is just pay attention to the weather. As JD said, the very first year I did this, I had a sleeveless tri-suit, and you come out the water and you're wet, and I had a sleeveless tri-suit and went out on the bike, and I was really, really cold. I wish I'd thrown a jacket on. But then the way the fog burns off is that by the time you get to the run, it can be quite toasty. So just sort of the night before, just check the weather and see how the weather's going to progress throughout the day. Just so you're comfortable. I like to race, but I also like to be comfortable.
Yes, totally agree.
All right. Anything else?
That's all I can think of. I mean, for those of you that are apprehensive about the swim, if you train in aquatic park, tends to be probably a couple degrees colder than Santa Cruz historically, but you've got an appropriate temperature in terms of training. So if you've been in an aquatic park, whatever you do in terms of equipment choices, whether you wear a neoprene cap, for example, or don't, whatever you do in training for aquatic park, I would just keep the same for this race. Water temp is about the same. The only thing would be it has potential for being a little bit more wavy. So.
Cool. All right. I think we're good. Thanks always for your time, JD.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you guys for coming on a Friday.
Yeah. I'll see you for our practice tries on Sunday, and then you should be hanging around Santa Cruz day of the race.
Yes.
Maybe racing, maybe not. I don't know.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Good weekend.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.